Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I have a very special guest with me today, Abdullah Almoaiqel, who is one of the co founders of the Rain Crypto Exchange, which is the first licensed crypto exchange in the Middle East. And Abdullah is going to tell us a lot about what they're doing there. So great to have you, Abdullah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Excited to talk to you today.
Abdullah, before we get into the exchange, I think folks will love to learn about your background. Where are you from? What did you do before crypto? If you can give us a quick rundown on that.
Sure. I'm from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. I was born outside the city in a town called Dilam. And when I was 12, I moved to Pennsylvania about in 2002 or so in the US. And I stayed there up until 2013 with my family, who my father was studying in the US, and then I got to study there as well. And yeah, I was studying engineering at the time, and that the what I really wanted to initially when I started in university, I grew very frustrated with academia, mainly because I was studying petroleum engineering, and that was the scholarship I had from the government of Saudi at the time. And I started university about 2007, 2008, and my immediately wanted to do something else, but didn't really think I had the chance to change majors. So I dove in and in entrepreneurship societies and groups, and clubs and business clubs, just to get an idea of how do I graduate. By the time I graduate in 4 years, I don't want to work in the petroleum engineering industry. Um, I, uh, I wanted to own my own business. I saw how Facebook and other startups were growing so fast, and I wanted to have basically my own job. Um, you know, the typical dream of working for yourself, and of trying to avoid being locked in an industry, a specific industry. So I taught myself a lot, and that's really when I discovered Bitcoin
Hmm.
in 2000, late 2012, early 2013. And the way I discovered Bitcoin was interesting. It really did stem from the frustration with academia and the financial system. I asked myself, well, why do we need money? And then where does money come from? And just read a few things on that and discovered, went down the Bitcoin rabbit hole as I discovered Bitcoin, I think from Reddit or from a friend of mine at the time. And at first, one of the first things I did was I was trying to. I noticed that every summer, we go back to Saudi, and I discover just new technologies being adopted by Saudi society. I was really baffled by how quickly things change every summer I go back, and I wanted to bring something back with me, something I was excited about. And Bitcoin was something I was really excited about. So I remember I remember posting in the Bitcoin Talk forums. I don't know if you were a part of those at the time. The Bitcoin Talk forums were one of the early community, and I remember posting something asking for anybody in the Middle East that's excited about Bitcoin. The title was Bitcoin in the Middle East, or Middle East, and then parentheses Saudi, UAE, and then a few other countries. And I had three objectives on there that we needed to bring this technology back to our region, and I wanted to be part of that. And the key goal was getting educating people about it, and then allowing people to have a way to get in Bitcoin or get in the industry, basically an exchange. I saw how a Coinbase was working so well in the US, and having a legal way to do it, and legitimate ways to do it, because I know that with every new technology, lots of potential scams come up, and people just follow blindly sometimes. So there needed to be a lot of education and differentiation, but between what's legitimate and what's not. And in late 2013, I started mining Litecoin. A few friends of mine actually were mining Litecoin before me. They used it to heat. Pennsylvania can get cold in the winter, and they used it to. They basically did not use any heaters all through the winter months because the graphics cards they were using were heating up the house.
Yeah.
And I started just brainstorming with them and trying to understand how they can make a viable business model from it, because there was a lot of fluctuations in price. And I was trying to see, do we need to sell it to pay electricity? And eventually, being online in an online community, I met my partners, current partners for Rain around 2016. And that's really my background. I studied petroleum engineering, and then when I came back to Saudi in 2014, I went back to school for computer science. I wasn't really focused on school per se, but I was focused on the networking opportunities. So I didn't care about my grades, but I got to learn a lot. I leveraged some of the trips that they had to go to Prague. I spent a month in Sweden studying international entrepreneurship and venturing, an intensive course, and then I also studied in a design school in the Netherlands. I got to a lot of opportunities thanks to a university here, Prince Sultan University. So that's my background.
Wow, very cool. And there's three other co-founders. So who came up with the idea to say, "Hey, let's start this crypto exchange here in the Middle East, or specifically in Bahrain"? And how or why did you guys choose Bahrain?
That's a good question. So we all met online, and we all actually wanted to have our own exchange, and the goals just aligned, right? The other co-founders, AJ Nelson and Joseph Dallago, also discovered Bitcoin around the same time, and they couldn't pass on the opportunity to work in the crypto industry, so they got jobs in the space. They worked at different crypto companies in San Francisco. And they're longtime entrepreneurs and business partners. They've launched their previous businesses themselves. And then Yehia Badawy, who was studying in San Francisco, his MBA in 2012, and he got to attend one of the first few meetups in Bitcoin meetups. I think one of them was sponsored by Coinbase, and then he went back to Egypt and he started his own Bitcoin meetup in 2013 or 2014. It was the first meetup in the Middle East, the Cairo Bitcoin meetup, and we all met online through that. AJ and Joseph had the goal of starting an exchange in an underserved region, and a region that was not yet did not have an exchange to help people to buy Bitcoin. And they found the Middle East, and they met Yehia through Meetup, and they discovered me on, I think, Twitter. And then we started discussing, and we talked to various regulators from 2016. We spent a lot of time researching, a lot of time talking with different governments. And we found Bahrain to be the best fit because they are a smaller country, but they are always at the forefront of new technologies. And specifically, they were in the financial sector. They really shined in the 70s on becoming a financial sector hub, and they had this new program on wanting to be a fintech hub in the region. And we had a good meeting with them in early 2017. And that led to everything else.
Wow, very cool. So you guys are really trying to be the Coinbase of the Middle East. And I noticed all the services that you've launched and have available and so forth. I did want to touch on the seed funding that you got, and partially from BitMEX, I believe, at $2.5 million. Can you talk a bit about that and what that process was like?
Sure. So the regulatory process started in 2017, and there was no regulations for crypto in the Middle East at that time. And we wanted to find a way to have to be a regulated company. There's two ways you can run an exchange, right? You can just start up a website and start serving people, help people buy and sell. But we noticed in 2015 and 16 that exchanges were shutting down. They were getting in trouble with the governments or legal, and they were losing their banking relationships. And we wanted to help people, right, enter the space, right? They had to use the default financial industry. They had to use banks. And we wanted to be good with banks so we can allow people to buy with their local currency, their Saudi riyals or their Bahraini dinars or the Kuwaiti dinars or what have you. And in order to do that, and to also provide some peace of mind for the customers, you need to have some sort of regulatory approval. And that takes longer, it costs a lot more, but it makes you a lot more robust over the long term because you have more solid partnerships in the traditional financial industry, right? You're not, if the central bank who governs banks, it gives you an approval to operate, the banks will be a lot more friendly with you to operate and help you do your business.
Got it. That totally makes sense. And I'm glad you guys went that route because, to your point, there's been a lot of exchanges got shut down, governments going after them, and so forth.
Yeah. Sorry to answer your question about seed investment. I missed it a little bit, but we have two types of investors. We have investors either in the space, in the crypto space from around the world, or investors, strategic investors in the region. They're both, all our investors are strategic in one form or another. So BitMEX was obviously a leader in the space, and we were excited to work with them and learn a lot from them. One of our partners got to meet them by coincidence, and it spiraled into their interest in us and the quality of our work. And we were definitely learning a lot from them from a lot of aspects. And it's a company we look up to. So we were really excited to have them lead the seed round.
Awesome. So I want to ask about your services because you do have quite a few, and I was actually very surprised because on your site it highlights that you service both retail and institutional. I saw custody service. I saw certainly I believe OTC, if I'm not mistaken. Can you give us a quick rundown on the different services you offer and shine some light in that area?
Sure. So right now we are a brokerage. It's a really simple way for retail customers to buy and sell Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and Litecoin. And it makes sense because lots of first timers in the industry don't really know how to trade on a big trading platform with a lot of charts, or they might get thrown off by that. And we saw that same model with Coinbase and other exchanges around the world, that they start with this simple interface that helps people buy and sell. And that's the retail segment, right? The ability to buy, sell, and store cryptocurrencies or crypto assets, as the regulators call them, or trade them. And that's the retail aspect of it. And then institutions and high net worth individuals, which we lump together, they often want to allocate a portion of their portfolio in crypto assets. They're often long-term holders, and they want a trusted way, a regional trusted way to be able to do that within their legal means. They have lots of rules they have to follow, and they can't just deal with any company around the world. They have to deal with a regulated financial institution, and that's where we're allowed to serve them. And then the last segment, which is a little smaller in volume, but is also is just crypto asset companies or crypto companies in general, companies that may have done ICOs or have Ethereum, or they get paid in crypto, or they source some of their products in crypto, and they want to liquidate it in some way. So we have lots of different use cases, but those are the main three.
Very cool. And you guys have an app. I think I noticed it's available for Android and iOS. Is it fairly new? Is it something that's been around for a while?
So the app, we launched it during the sandbox actually, and I can talk a little more about that if you'd like,
Sure.
the process of getting regulated. But the sandbox, the app, it was really important for the region because it's a very mobile first
Mm.
region. There's lots of mobile penetration here, and you'd be amazed how many people have more than one phone in the region. Just have the work phone, a play phone, and the WhatsApp penetration, Twitter penetration, and
Hmm.
YouTube is in Saudi, for example. YouTube has the highest users per capita,
Wow.
highest of the whole world.
Wow.
So lots of people spend time on their phones. The infrastructure for mobile first is really there here in the region, and people prefer mobile first. That's why we really focused on getting the app out really quickly. We have it both for both Android and the App Store
Very
in
cool.
iOS.
You mentioned, you guys have Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, XRP. Are those the only cryptos? Are there more? Are you planning to add more?
So we'd love to add more depending on the need of customers. So when we first started, we had just Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum. And then we got a lot of requests to add XRP, and we did add XRP. There's lots of interest for XRP in the region. There, Ripple has done a lot of work with the regional banks here, and they've done a lot of announcements regarding that. So there's a lot of interest in XRP directly. But the process as a regulated institution kind of limits you of how many cryptos you can add.
Hmm.
Obviously, lots of due diligence has to be done on the cryptocurrencies that we can add. There's also an internal list with the central bank on what crypto assets, they call it approved crypto assets.
Hmm.
And the criteria for adding the conditions or criteria are usually they have to have over $1 billion market cap. They have to have liquidity around the world and 24/7. And they have to be highly liquid, and then they have to also be very secure. And the security aspect means that they also have to be time tested. So newer currencies, we get lots of requests from lots of new projects, and we have to deny them, unfortunately. But it's also, we're not getting the actual demand for other than the top 10 or top 20, essentially, which we hope to add eventually.
Got it. And it's a process, like you said, it goes off demand, so that totally makes
Yeah.
sense. Now, there was a question someone asked on Twitter that I should ask you, and it's relating to cryptos that are Sharia compliant. Maybe you can shed some light there. What does that mean for those of us who may not know? And we've seen the term, and I believe at one point XRP was on the list of being reviewed if it's Sharia compliant. I think last year.
Mhm. So the review, what we wanted to do first was review our company, our services to be Sharia compliant, which means that we don't participate in any kind of usury or interest. We don't charge interest for people storing their crypto with us. We also don't give interest. And what Sharia compliance means is it's within the bounds of Islamic law. And interest is not just forbidden in Islam. It's actually forbidden in many different religions, including Judaism, and the aspect of being a Sharia compliant investment tool is it gives a lot of comfort to the regional investors or regional crypto enthusiasts. It says that we're not running like a the review includes that fact that we actually have 100% of the reserves. We
Hmm.
don't have we don't take out we don't do what banks do, right? We don't take the deposits and then loan them out to other people,
Right.
and we don't take Bitcoin and loan it out to someone, or do all that type of behavior. And the Sharia Review Bureau in Bahrain, which is also licensed by the Central Bank of Bahrain, reviewed also the crypto assets themselves that were listed on the platform. They had to go into each one and determine whether there was some kind of prohibited behavior of these cryptos in our system, and they haven't found that with the ones we have listed today.
Awesome. On the note of Ripple, because you mentioned it just answering the other question, some folks are asking if your exchange would be open to becoming a Ripple ODL partner. Now, obviously, that's a very open-ended question to ask, but of course, just curious if that's a possibility or that's something you guys are open to.
Yeah. So ODL, the on-demand liquidity offering of Ripple, I think it's interesting. We haven't really dug deep into it. I think lots of people probably anticipate that if more and more companies use Ripple ODL, the XRP price is gonna go up because there's going to be more demand, or there's going to be more burn and or more in XRP. And I'm not I think I would challenge that, because to my understanding, how Ripple ODL works is that it allows for international remittance, in seconds. It's all great, but you need to have like a send side exchange and then a receive side exchange that takes the XRP, changes it to the local currency, and then gives it to the local person on the other end. And likewise in the sending end. So if we wanted to use Ripple ODL to send US dollars to the US, then we would have to buy XRP from ourselves, give ourselves US dollars, and then we'd have to do something with those US dollars down the line. So I'm not sure that it's a good fit for us specifically, but I think where it might be a good fit is that for the banks and financial institutions that have integrated or are testing Ripple in the region, and there are some in Saudi, in Bahrain, in Kuwait, that have done tests throughout the past 2 years even, for international remittance, and we can be the send side exchange for those banks. So we can provide the service of taking their local currency, giving them XRP, and then they send XRP to the other financial institution where they can settle quickly for international remittance. So we'll look into it, but it's not right now. It's not in the roadmap or the plan.
Awesome. I saw on the website you guys are in 50 countries, which is really great. There was a question that came asking if you were in the U.S., and I know the U.S. there's not much regulatory clarity here yet, but curious your thoughts around that.
We'd love to serve the entire world, but there's a lot of restrictions regulatory-wise, especially when you're dealing with the traditional financial institutions. So we're not serving U.S. customers at this time. And we also have different rules for different countries depending on the risk profile of that country. And usually the regulators who licensed us really determine which countries are they comfortable with us dealing with, or the banks as well that we work with. So if a customer does a deposit and they're from and then they sell their crypto and then they withdraw fiat, and the banks that we use don't deal with those banks or don't deal with that country, then we'd be limited from serving that customer, right? So right now our focus is really on the GCC countries, the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, which is Saudi, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, and the UAE, the United Arab Emirates. And those are the main countries we're focusing on today.
And that totally makes sense. I think here in the U.S. we have a lot of exchanges. I don't know if we need another one, but competition, variety is healthy. But I'm glad that you guys, where you're at in the Middle East, is providing this service, because to your point, it's kind of an emerging market, and you were the first to kind of put your stake in the ground there as an exchange. And I'm sure other folks are going to try to follow suit and compete with you, but you have the first mover advantage, so that's really great.
Yeah, and we have basically the the regulatory backing. There have been attempts to start exchanges, and most of them have not reached the operational stage. There is another exchange in Dubai that started serving customers before us, but they also had banking issues. They were set up in a free zone, and they lost their banking partners because they didn't have they started the other way, right? The less robust way, where you can start a business quicker, but you're not going to be sustainable. And we want to be a company that lasts for generations, and we want to build the infrastructure to get in and out of the crypto industry or to exchange for many years ahead, and that really requires partnering with the traditional financial system. If you're going to need them as a payment method, essentially.
Got it. Absolutely makes sense, and I love that you guys went the regulatory route and got everything in order, and you don't have to worry about those issues that some of these smaller exchanges are starting up overnight on. So I did want to get your thoughts on a kind of a hot topic around the globe right now, where central banks are looking to build central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. What are your thoughts? And especially you've worked with the Central Bank of Bahrain to get your license and so forth. What are your thoughts around that?
So it's an interesting concept. They want to leverage the technologies, but the technologies depend on the decentralization of them as a major security aspect, right? If you're going to issue a digital currency that's centralized and that's closed and it's not open source and it's very limited, it doesn't look like a digital currency, and it does. Maybe it is a digital currency, but it doesn't look like a cryptocurrency anymore. Not the one we're working on, the ones we're pushing for. So we have seen these projects even here in the Middle East. Central banks did test their own digital currencies that they wanted to use as cross-border settlements between financial institutions or even just between central banks, but they're not really for retail. They're kind of very limited in scope, and I'm not, to be honest, I'm not too excited about them. I think it's good that they're leveraging the technology, but I think a lot of them miss the point.
Agreed. I feel it's there's kind of scrambling because they want to avoid a disruption. People are moving to alternative currencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and so forth.
Yeah. Well, this disruption is coming either way, and the financial sector is feeling this now. They're kind of reinvesting in fintech because they're not able to catch up. The financial industry is so old, and they're like a big ship. They're like a Titanic. It's hard to steer, and when you're a little ship, it's kind of much more flexible. Granted, if you follow the Lindy effect, I don't believe the concept of banks are just going to disappear and crypto is going to replace them 100%. I think there's going to be something in between, but definitely it's nice to see it's nice to see the past few years a lot of legitimacy in the space, and the recognition that now we have to pay attention and governments can't look away anymore.
Absolutely. I got two more questions for you. The next one is, what else can we expect from Rain maybe this year or next year? I know you may not be able to disclose everything, but could it be expansion, new services, anything you can share with us?
Yeah, so the product roadmap has a lot, and the growth team has a lot of plans. What I can tell you is that we are just working on improving our current service a lot better. We did a lot of rigorous testing with customers. The first a couple hundred of customers, some of them we sat down, a lot of them we sat down in person, lots of them we had a whole journey, recorded sessions with them, and we're getting more and more feedback in just how to perfect our product. And so we have a lot of ideas on how to get the product into a new level design-wise, and we're also offering, we built a trading platform. So right now we're basically just a brokerage, a simple way to buy and sell cryptocurrencies. Mm-hmm. But we saw that a lot of people were just using us as an on-ramp, buying from us, sending it to Binance or another exchange, and trading there daily and coming back when they need to cash out. And we got lots of suggestions, lots of feedback on customers just wanting to trade with us. They us being familiar with them, having localized services, being local, really pushes them to kind of just want to have an all-in-one service. So we built a trading platform that we're currently testing, and that will allow people to trade, to have advanced order types, different order types. And that's what's in the short term. The long term is there's lots of ideas, but we're really focused on the value, providing the most value. Nothing that just is just experimentation. We really want to focus on the market. It's something that we've all seen in the past few years. Lots of ideas are coming up in the blockchain space, but the business model, the viable business models are really, we've seen that the biggest businesses are the exchanges, and that's really what we're aiming at.
Got it. That totally makes sense. So I'm sure folks are excited to see that trading platform go live. Final question here. What's your personal outlook on the crypto market over the next 2 to 3 years? I know we're in this pandemic situation and we need that to kind of wrap up to get back to normal life. But, what do you see the market in 2 to 3 years?
So if I won't give a price prediction because, but I'll tell you that the market is now really maturing globally, and that's a really good sign, because once you have more regulated exchanges around the world, you have different types of investors that can come in. Institutions are now coming in, and that has different ramifications. It changes the profile of the trader, and that's why we saw a big dip. Now is the flight to cash liquidity. Lots of people sold everything they had just to have access to dollars, including the institutions that had Bitcoin and other crypto assets. But the main reason why Bitcoin is here, and Satoshi signaled this in the first block, in the message in the first block, with the chancellor on the title of one of the articles, and it was used as a timestamp to prove that the Bitcoin network wasn't created before that date in January of 2009. But it was also often viewed as a comment on the instability that the endless supply of money that the governments are injecting into the world. And that's really what got me into Bitcoin initially, studying money. And it's you might say that Bitcoin could have been born out of the 2008 financial crisis, although lots of people will argue it took years and years, maybe decades of work in creating a digital peer-to-peer internet-based cash or a digital cash. So the same conditions where Bitcoin was born are back again, and they will continue, which is that the central banks around the world will continue printing money, injecting a lot of cash. And how soon will we start to feel the debasement of fiat currencies? And inflation happens every year, but now it feels that it's unavoidable. And that's been all throughout history, is that governments want to have the free power to create money and monitor control the money supply, and it's going to look really really interesting in the next few years as we see Bitcoin. So for 2 to 3 years, I would say it's tough to tell, but for 10 years, and then this is how I see Bitcoin. For me, it's a lifelong journey, and I'm just really proud of the team that we have and the opportunity to make an impact for our region and to push the world for more crypto adoption. And that's really what I see in the next 2 to 3 years, just more and more crypto adoption, more understanding of how money works as we encounter these global situations. And lots of people will ask themselves, where does the Fed get all these $6 trillion and these $1 trillion that keep coming every day, injected into the money financial system? And I think eventually people will use Bitcoin as a store of value just because of its immutable properties and its the properties of it being a hard form of money. And then down the line, I think before it can become a medium of exchange, or before it can become a way for people to buy and sell things, I think that's way down the line, way after people start using it to store wealth, if people even want to spend hard money, because hard money is probably good for saving in overall.
Abdullah, a lot of great information. I'm very excited for the work you guys are doing there in the Middle East, and wish you lots of luck. And I would love to see that region blossom under the crypto market. So keep up the great work, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really proud of what you're doing, and thank you for talking to us today.